Buenas tardes and buenos dias to some of you still that are in the morning time. I'm Carlos Alexis Cruz, and I am the current president of our organization, Association for Theater and Higher Ed. And I wanted to welcome you all for this year's membership meeting, which we decided to take off the conference in an effort to try to reach more people. So here we are in the digital space. Before I say anything about that, I would say I appreciated seeing the dancing in the beginning with the music um, and the joy that that brought. The truth is, and I'll share, I don't know some of you that know me outside of these spaces, but my closest colleague at the university, Shamu, passed tragically 2 weeks ago. And he was Persian, fled Iran during the revolution, made a career in England before coming to the States. He's a beautiful, beautiful artist, and that was one of his songs from one of his latest bands. We actually used it in a show last Friday as an homage, his joy continued to live within us. And as I told the students here, Shamu was an example of being an artist. He always was welcoming, coming from the other side of the world, and his affinity for West African music and drumming, and the idea of community that happens within those spaces. So that was a tenant in everything that he did, and on top of that, he always looked to care for people. And I think as artists, the idea of opening our spaces, being of an ear and arm on the ground, and also to be taking care of each other, I think it's if nothing else, is one of the things that we should be doing as artists, especially today. So thank you for allowing me to state those words for Shamu. And I now would like to call this meeting to order. We have a very busy agenda, but we couldn't. I couldn't be me, even if I'm standing in the South right now, where I cannot say words equity and justice, and just said it here, in this campus. I would like for us to at least take a second and acknowledge the lands in which we stand, and also the people that have helped build these lands, that have constantly been pushed to the side, not acknowledged, and undermined in our history. And as we vow to do better, even when these current conversations are pushing us in many directions, I think we should continue to rely on those values and do better. So take a second to acknowledge that. If you feel free to share anything in the chat along the lines, and also feel free to share in the chat if there's any access need, something that you might need, especially for us, that we might be able to accommodate as we continue this meeting, the progress of this meeting. Make sure that I pop out the chat. Thank you all. And with that said, we have a very busy agenda, so this is just the first part, the welcome part. And we'll like to move through it rather quickly to make sure that we also have enough space at the end for questions. And if we finish early, even better. That's we give you time back and more things to do, I guess, for everybody. The main thing that I would say is that it was. I feel we are at a very not only interesting but tricky and very necessary moment in time in arts education in the United States, and everything that is changing within philanthropy, everything that is changing in our institutions. And it was very heartening to be in Atlanta together and have those conversations that we did. And we'll get into the conference sort of review in a second, reflection in a second. But I think more than anything, it continued to prove that the need of an organization like ATHE, it's imperative to have, and it's something that we should advocate and constantly work for to continue to be together. So I am very encouraged about, ultimately, and so is the governing council and everybody that I have talked to, in these days, and know that we as in the different circles that make this organization are constantly trying to strive to do not only better in all the things that we're trying to do, but look for actions and sustainability. So In our meeting today, we'll talk a little bit about what happened in 2024. We'll look ahead of 2025. We'll have a finance update. We will talk a little bit about some changes that we're trying to do in the bylaws and some of the bigger goals for this year, as we also look into who can join the leadership team and moments for questions and other things. So with that said, I would like then to pass and if you don't have any questions, I'll pass the baton to Valerie for reflections on the conference 2024.
Thank you, Carlos Alexis. Hi, everyone. I'm Valerie Clayman-Pye, Vice President of Conference 2024. And just to spend a moment to reflect on our 2024 conference, revisioning the story, I want to begin by offering my heartiest thanks to the conference committee, to the governing council, to the focus group reps and the conference planners, and all of the volunteer labor that helped to make the conference a success. This year in 2024, we programmed 230 sessions, including 170 concurrent sessions, 5 keystone sessions, 2 meaningful workshops led by Atlanta artist facilitators, and 2 all-conference sessions that engaged with the local arts community in Atlanta. We celebrated talented award winners. We launched new initiatives that bolstered care and community across the conference, including lengthening the time between our sessions to encourage connection and dialogue between members. Throughout the conference, ATHE members relayed time and again to me and to other members of the committee how pleased they were with the conference, both in terms of its form and its execution. In just a bit, Charlotte will share some more details about the conference in terms of attendance and finance, but I also wanted to just take a personal moment to thank the whole membership for allowing me to serve in this capacity. It's really been a great joy and a labor of love. So thank you so much. And now I think I am passing it off to Kirsten to hear about Conference 2025.
Yes, and I'm going to share my screen just because I've got some dates and things to talk about. So Conference 2025 is the real, and we're calling it the real because we are virtual for this conference. And for the first time, we are, I like to think, virtual or online intentionally, not because of the exigencies of COVID, but in order to really explore the possibilities of a virtual conference. I also want to make really clear, because I heard this a couple of times when I was at the conference in August in Atlanta, fear that that was our last live conference, and that is not the case. We don't know for sure what any kind of rotation will be, and maybe we will never do an online conference again because this will be such a horrible experience. I hope not. But the idea is that we'll do them in some kind of rotation. And we decided to go virtual for variety of reasons. A lot of it was really driven by member concerns, both about the cost of the conference and of the travel to get there and to stay there. Accessibility at the conference, both the sort of financial accessibility, but actual accessibility on the ground, being in places where maybe people didn't feel safe being in particular locations, the actual accessibility for people with disabilities, thinking about sustainability for the planet, and also thinking about ATHE's financial health, which Charlotte is going to talk about with that there. And finally, the other member concern is more engagement opportunities. Members want ATHE to do more. And so trying to think about how we could use the opportunity of online conferencing to build in more engagement opportunities. So that's why we're going virtual. Our theme, as I said, is the real. And I worked with, I'm working with a really fantastic conference committee who sort of took a really rough idea and ran with it and have really revised and refined some sort of loose ideas. I've also been really fortunate to work with the governing council since really a year ago to start thinking about how this was going to work virtually. And especially in our last couple of 3 or 4 months to really think about this with this, but to recognize that any kind of binary opposition between real and virtual or between live and mediatized is outdated and unnecessary, because theater and performance are always real and they're always representation. And I've got here some things that we might look at, but I also want to say that I don't want this to be, none of us want this to be a super prescriptive conference. Rather, we hope that people can find their way in to thinking about what it means to be conferencing online and to take advantage of all of those opportunities. I should also say that after this meeting and after one more meeting between the conference committee that is taking place on Friday, we will have this information. Amy is working on putting it together in PDF form that will be available, filled out with a lot more detail on the ATHE websites. We're about ready to launch this officially. And I'm going to talk about the structure. So the structure that we're going to do is that we're going to do three spring symposia, 3 one-day events on Saturday, February 22nd, Friday, March 15th, and Friday, April 4th. Those dates are still subject to change. If there's something that we're missing about those dates, please let us know. Please let us know. We tried to avoid big auditions, USITT, other conferences, and major holidays with these dates. But if we've missed something, let us know. And again, we sort of asked members, does it work better to do Friday or Saturday? And we got, maybe Friday's a little better, but Saturday also works. So we made that choice there. These one-day events will be led by the focus groups. Focus groups, we're going to ask them to put in really rough proposals of what they might like to do, whether it's for a whole day of programming themselves, whether it's 1 or 2 sessions by themselves, or 1 or 2 sessions with those sort of multidisciplinary panels, and thinking about how members will have an opportunity to present work, whether that's formal research papers or work in progress or a workshop or production work, but also to have conversations. There have been really rich pedagogy conversations at ATHE recently, DEIA conversations, those kinds of things. Proposals for those will be due on November 15th, and then we'll have final schedules 1 month before the symposium. I want to also stress that these are not meant to be lesser than any other kind of conference. These are sort of instead of, for those people who find it difficult to get away in the summer, for those people who want to do something in the spring for whatever reason, or for those who want to do something sort of across time, so that they might start a project in February and finish it up at the general conference with that. And then we will have, again, a summer general conference, an opportunity to capitalize on the opportunities of, look at all that opportunity, online conferencing. We are wanting to look for sessions that can engage members virtually in creative and innovative ways, take advantage of our format, and also really explore that interplay between virtual and hybrid worlds. We're hoping to find ways to incorporate some all member activities, as well as potentially some sort of smaller optional regional in-person opportunities that people might want to take advantage of, as well as online opportunities for that. And also, we're trying to think very hard about ways to make sure that practice and performance don't drop out of this online conference, and working with that. This will have the same proposal structure as in past years, with the proposals due in December, the acceptance and rejections sent in February, a second round in March, completing it in April, and registration in May, and then our conference July 28th through August 1st. I know that's a lot of information, and more is coming in a sort of a concrete, readable form, but I wanted to get this information out to folks as soon as we could, as soon as I could, in order to let you know. And I am very excited about being here and about being able to plan a virtual conference and to be part of helping ATHE figure out what it means to go into this sort of world of everything that's changed in the arts, in the profession, in our institutions, post-COVID, post that summer of protest and pandemic, and to see what happens when we try to go virtual. So thank you all. Oh, and I'm throwing it over to somebody. Am I throwing it over to you, Charlotte? Yes, I am.
Yes.
So Charlotte.
So hello, everyone. Thanks so much for that, Kirsten. Really inspiring, really, already a huge amount of work there by you and your committee. So thanks for that. So just give me a moment to get my slideshow started here. So I have, as ever, what I think is the joyful job of going through finances and trying to give some big pictures and trends here, following up, and I suppose supporting with some more data what Kirsten has been saying to us. So what I'm going to cover here in my brief time with you is some good news financial headlines that we'll go through, background, numerical, and finance trends to give, again, some of that data to what Kirsten was saying about, what we've been looking at in terms of the finances, but also in terms of levels of member engagement and how to make space for more members to be active more often. And then I'll be ending with a call for membership renewals from you all gathered here and for you to spread your word amongst your colleagues. Just because we're going online does not mean that the work of the organization is not ongoing. And as Kirsten has laid out so beautifully, in fact, there is more ongoing behind the scenes, more opportunities to participate and be part of ATHE and see what ATHE has for you. So here we go to the next slide. So good news financial headlines. So our investment accounts are up $50,000. This is great news in general, but specifically, we've been thinking over the last several of years very proactively as a board about how to use the funds in the investment accounts strategically in order to support actions in the last several years, like our several EDI initiatives. We've also been looking at how to create some new grants in terms of research and travel that will be rolling out sometime over the course of 2024, 2025. As we've spoken about with membership, we have, there's a challenge in meeting the bottom line of the organization year on year as our membership pool has declined a bit and our in-person attendance has been lower as folks have been dealing with issues around finances, institutional support, and so on. So we've been trying to do a kind of two-front battle here where we've been thinking about, number one, how to meet our financial obligations. Number two, how to use the investment funds that we have in order to invest in our members, to bring more people into the organization and increase equity and justice within our operations. And then finally, how to bring new members in and meet folks where they're at in terms of what they need. So as I said, there'll be some new grant schemes that will be announced over the course of 2024, 2025, including travel grants for when we come back to in-person, and those details will be forthcoming. I'm supposed to say as well, within the workings of the board in the last few years, we have made a distinction between award monies and come to a more equitable model based on need of awardees for things such as the book awards, essay awards, et cetera, versus grants giving money to members to support research or need where possible. I am delighted to say to you all that finances overall are 18% higher than at this time last year in terms of the margin by which we're in the black and meeting our financial obligations. We also came very close to hitting our registration and income targets for the conference, but we fell slightly short. So about 96% of our registration target was hit. And then, apologies. And then 3,000 short for the target income. But that being said, we're 18% overall in a better financial picture than we were last year. And that has to do with a lot of variables in terms of the cost of the conference site, in terms of levels of membership and registration, in terms of levels of royalties coming in from our publications with Johns Hopkins Press, and so on. But we are, coming within the targets that we're setting internally and balancing the picture of our finances better overall. And then we're hoping that this experiment of going online in the next year will place us in a better position again, as well as put us, through the process of rolling out our new grants. So to say as well that, something that we've been looking at very proactively and in a database way as a board is looking at the relationship between membership numbers and conference attendance. and then looking at that against the rising costs of breaking even with our conference in terms of just the cost of putting the event on and so on. So we have seen that our membership in ATHE has remained fairly steady around over time, in the high 900s, low 1000s. We're seeing a bit of a dip right now at 821 from the previous year, but this is a partial figure, not going all the way to the end of the year. But as Amy has emphasized to us, even the 10% decrease and kind of approximate period that we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years does have a consequence to us hitting those bottom lines and remaining in the black for the organization, because if we have less members, less conference attendees, and costs are rising, it's much harder to make the two things meet. We imagine that this dip in membership number has a lot to do with declining institutional support, the precarity of careers in the field, and so on. But we're paying attention to this, both in terms of how do we need to act in order to bring new members into the fold and keep people engaged, as well as just reminding folks to renew that membership. We made the move a few years ago that wherever you review it and renew at any point in the year, it rolls forward for a whole year after that point. We brought in different membership tiers. We have an installment option. We're trying to meet folks where they're at, but we also really do need you to renew that membership to stay invested, particularly in a year when we're trialing so much new programming, so many new resources, and hopefully rolling out these new grants as well. We can see that whereas the membership has fluctuated maybe the kind of 10% downward trend per year, our number of conference attendees has really gone up and down, and it is in the kind of downward moment right now. And again, is that about what can we be doing better to support the needs of our organization, needs of our members? Yes, but it's also just about the fact of rising costs, decreased institutional support, carrying responsibilities, and so on. So we know we're dealing with a smaller critical mass who are able to make the trip in person year on year post-pandemic. So how do we meet people where they're at this next year in their own homes? Based on the data that we get from that experience, we'll see where we move forward. Some of that data is financial, but it will also continue to be what you tell us about what's working and not working for you. So you're probably wondering about what are the conference registration fees going to be for this alternative online format where we're not in person, but you're getting access to many more events over the course of this year. We're going to be setting these over the next couple of months at the governing council level. We'll be announcing them to you as soon as possible. We know your budgeting for the year in terms of institutional support and household budgets is important, so we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Just to remind us that we have this tiered dues membership structure. You also have the option of becoming a lifetime member, particularly if you have an institution who would support that kind of commitment or investment in your professional development. We know based on the data over the last several years that most of our members are at the under $50,000 range. And we are seeing a drop off over the last few years in those at the $50,000 to $70,000 range, which is also information that is important for us in terms of what are the stages of career that we're serving you as an organization. How do we mind and look after those at our lower income levels and in precarious work? And as I've said, we have a lot of actions there to push that forward in the years to come. So to remind us, for your ATHE membership sign up, so you can pay in a lump sum for the year at any point. That can go along with conference registration if that's easier for you to claim back from your institution, or you can take care of it earlier in the year and stagger your finances. You can pay monthly increments. I didn't even know this was an option, and my institution no longer will allow me to claim for membership. So this is what I've done personally to aid my budgeting for the year. And then finally, you may invest in a lifetime membership. So those are the headlines, some good news, some new things coming down the line. We really need you to renew those memberships to keep us going, and we look forward to serving you in all the ways that Kirsten has outlined this year.
So I'm going to talk about really boring stuff for like 2 minutes. So just 2 minutes, guys. As you know, I'm kind of the nonprofit 101 lady here. And so we do have some things coming up that we're going to be voting on as a membership. So I want to just give everyone a heads up of what that is. So in the past year, the Governing Council has been working really hard to update our association bylaws. And for those of you, it looks like I see a lot of focus group representatives and conference planners here on the call. You know that bylaws for an organization are the legal documents that establish rules and procedures of how an organization works. For ATHE in particular, we are a legal 501c3, and we're required to submit these to the state of which we're incorporated in, where we pay taxes. But as a general rule, bylaws are not a handbook. They're overview, very high level policies and structures. And for the most part, they are written to hold the board of directors accountable. And outline general structures in the way an organization operates. So they're not like, we send emails on the 15th of September, but rather we vote on board members annually, and people are fiscally responsible to the organization as a legal entity. So the last time ATHE updated its bylaws was 2019. And as we all know, there's been a lot of stuff going on since then. And really, bylaws are supposed to be updated every year. And some of you in your focus groups probably do that. But ATHE as a whole has not, because they do require a full vote of the entire membership and a specific voting period to let you read through everything and see what's going on and weigh in. So that could be a reason why the organization has not done it in the past, but we were going through them in the past year, and we're like, wow, these are kind of old. So Megan Geigner, Isaiah Wooden, and Chase Gardner sat down as a committee and cleaned them all up and realized how out of date they kind of are, and we want to bring them up to where ATHE is operating right now. So because they need to be voted on by the full membership, we're going to be emailing all our current members with our suggested bylaws changes. So you're going to get a red line, super exciting. And you're going to see a lot of changes. Typically, we need to vote on every single change, but there is so much kind of wordiness stuff that's being cleaned up. We're just probably going to vote on them in sections as a whole. You're going to see really simple stuff, like we don't accept membership ballots and voting through facsimile anymore. I think that's an okay update. There's other ones that are certainly a little more theoretical, which is that the governing council would like to increase certain board of director terms from 2 years to 3 years. And for those of you who have served as an FGR or have served on the governing council in the past, you might notice that, once you get into your role, it takes you a good year to kind of figure out what you're doing. Listen in on the board meetings, see what's going on, kind of get the lay of the land as the organization works. And then by the time you're in your second year, you're already out the door and you're like, but wait, we're finally like moving and we're doing stuff and this is great. And now I need to stop. So there are a few positions on the board that the governing council has recommended that are 3-year terms. And as you know, I also support ASTR as an organization, and all of their board director roles are 3-year terms, just for the logistics of it and how it helps kind of stabilize the organization. In addition, the committee also recommended making sure there was always one graduate student and one contingent faculty member on the governing council to make sure we're representative of our members. We actually have always had contingent faculty members on the board in recent years, but now we're making this as part of the bylaws. Also notice that we've taken away some more of the prescriptive job titles for board members. Typically, an organization only has a president, a secretary, and a treasurer, and maybe a board member related to fundraising, but ATHE's board members all have like a job title. And in some ways, this is great when you have a VP for awards or professional development because it reflects the values of the organization. But in some ways, this isn't great because if you want to be on the board, but you're really interested, say, in mentorship, there isn't a job title that says mentorship. So this way, by kind of eliminating some of these kind of prescriptive siloed roles on the board, we can find people who are interested in the governance of the organization and charting a path forward and not in a prescriptive role. So spiel is over. Basically, we're streamlining the bylaws. We're updating them for the first time in 5 years, and we will be sending those red lines to you in the next few weeks so that you have a month to vote on them and decide whether you'd like to see those move forward. Very exciting. Okay, I am going to pass this on back to Carlos Alexis for a general looking ahead, and then Chase Gardner is going to give us a little insight into how we actually populate our board of directors, so you can see how that's going to be reflected in the bylaws changes.
I encourage all of us to take a second to drop everything you're doing, put the pencil down, whatever you have or something. Close your eyes and let's take a collective deep breath. So inhale and exhale. And let that sink in for a second. As you begin again your own cycle of breath and the way you move. I appreciate doing that, and thank you for the second there, because we move so many times like 100 miles per hour trying to listen to all this information and catch up and forget to ground ourselves, like to take this second to take care of our own process as we're gathering all this information. And at the same time that we exist in community, like in the fact that you were able to take a collective deep breath in all these areas across the country at this same time, I think reinforces this idea that we exist together. And for me, this organization exists because we exist together. If it existed because of one person trying to push it, it wouldn't happen. There's no need for that. Not only we represent an art form that is collective in nature, we are trying to do work that is actually impactful for all the departments and all the faculty and staff, and by extension, and most importantly, our students across the nation. And we can only do that as we aim to do this together, not individually. So, as I try to like now bring back to some of this, sort of summarize our collective goals, we already have heard some of the examples of what, the work that the Governing Council has been doing forward. And it's very important for me that we understand that the Governing Council is a circle within circles, as I keep saying. Like we are trying to do the best that we can in have all the conversations with people that are outside, so the work is actually relevant, and I keep saying impactful in general for all of us. We have acknowledged, I think, three big things. There is a fact of membership and the value of membership today. That's a big point, and I'm gonna get into each of them in a second. There's also like the interconnectedness of, or further cementing down who we are as faculty, as people that exist in academia, that could impact the structures of academia and governing spaces in academia. Where does ATHE can play a role to move that and to make sure that we have a space there for the value not only of theater making, but of the artists in those spaces. And then looking at sustainability in terms of resources in general, beyond also the economic resources. But how do we become a space in which we can be visionary and not just executing actions? I think at this point, it's needed for us to not just, I think, and I'm not saying this lightly because the conference is is a rich space of conversation, but I think we are in need of other spaces in which we can gather. And I always quote my mentor from Puerto Rico, Rosa Luisa Marquez, who used to say, if we can't gather, we can't conspire. So whenever we can find spaces in which we can gather, we should relish that moment and conspire to dream revolutions, changes, things. So like, I see this ATHE space like that, and I want to continue to say that until I go into my outgoing as presidency and hand it to the amazing Martine as we continue this continuum between Chase, me, my team, and so on. So going back to the first point, I will, and I'm gonna try to be brief so we can get to questions here. We're examining the value of membership beyond the transactional concept. How do we open the space for ATHE to become a collective-driven avenue for advocacy and visioning? The membership, like, I think as of now, most of the people see the value of our membership as they try to register for the conference. And I think as we're moving through this year in which we're trying to experiment with different offerings, programming, connections, conversations, and so on that can happen in the virtual realm, we are trying to take all those like structures down in a way and try to put spaces in which like the membership means more than just the gathering for a particular conference in person. And then how, when we do that too, that there is a value of people becoming member because it enriches the larger conversation. When we are part of this collective, we're helping our own collective voice to continue to grow. But that story has to be made more clear and deliberate and stronger. And also to have an ear on the ground to listen to things that we have done that has been exclusionary, like I can speak English right now. Like I've been pushing people aside and like make sure that the space is opening and accessible for all people. So, and all of our students, all of our faculty, I'm talking about grad students, everybody. So there's the overarching goal is examining the value of membership. Second overarching goal of the three big ones that I see, because obviously we have all, planning the conference and so on that are to-dos constantly in this organization, is to rebuild bridges with the multiple generations of ATHE members and leaders to use that continuum as a pathway for more deliberate mentorship, which we have identified that ATHE is a space of mentorship in many ways, that people can see their careers kind of expand from where they started to like the next dream step. And that mentorship can go vice versa too, from people that have gone through a lot and being inspired by new generations and so on. So how do we open that in our spaces, but also that we can help evidence the impact of our collective presence in academia today. And it's what I was saying. We have people that have gone through from assistant professor to associate to full professor to becoming deans and chairs and associate provosts and presidencies. And those spaces they are in, navigating the structures of like, let's call it management, because I hate to use the word power in academia. And if we want to help dismantle a little bit of the issues that have plagued, I think, our society, that have kept some of our communities aside and not engaged in the larger conversations of all of us, I think we need to lean back again to that big group, to that big continuum of people that have grown through our organization, reconnect on that, build bridges, and dig deeper into what we can do. And then lastly, I would say we are looking to diversify our organization's income structure. And as we're looking for future sustainability, as well as for us to live up to the expectation of being visionary for the future of theater in higher education. If we rely only on the income of conference registrations and membership, as things keep shifting and philanthropy is shifting and all of that, we will see the same issues that a lot of nonprofits are running or are running against currently. But I think it's important for us to think about, if we are only, and I have said this since I've entered the governing council space, if we can only execute planning the conference, well, that's okay. I question if that's the thing that we are needed to do currently, especially when we see departments shrinking or disappearing, when we see the issues in theater making and theater education. And when we all acknowledge that there is a need for us to continue to exist, which we have to push for against that, right? We have to battle for our presence and existence. And as an organization, as a collective of people, I think this is a space in which we can dream those spaces, those thoughts and those ideas, but we have to buy us some time, some space, and we have to change some structures for that. So those are the bigger goals, and I'll be happy to take some questions later. But it is, I want to finish just this kind of brief section of remarks here by saying that, we're looking to gather again in person in 2026. I think there was at some point the fear that, we were shifting just because of the finances and different things that were happening, that we couldn't do this again. I think as theater people, we acknowledge the value of gathering in person. I think there is a value of community when we are in presence of each other, but we also acknowledge the different access possibility that some of our community members have. And we have to listen to all those things and take all those things into account to try to do as best as we can to serve everybody. Because without everybody, I don't think we can move forward as strong as, if we're moving just a few of us. So, that's right, Martin. So, yeah, so if you have any questions, I'll take them after, in the Q&A part of this. But in the meantime, I'll pass it along to Chase with some of our immediate past president reports. So thank you all. Chase.
Hello, everyone. So great to be in space here with you today. First of all, I want to thank Carlos Alexis for his wonderful words and for his wonderful leadership and guidance through this moment that we find ourselves in. I just want to say thank you. Basically, my remarks are just thank you. Thank yous to all of the people who have contributed labor to this organization over the past couple years, those who continue to do it, and those who have signed on recently to do it for the next few years. So lots of gratitude and thanks coming forward here. So I wanted to start off by sort of thanking our outgoing members, as you can see here. This is a wonderful group: Meredith Conti, Megan Gagner, Reza Mirsajadi, Valerie Kleiman-Pai, and Isaiah Wooten. These folks all came in when we had our first conference back in Detroit in person. So they kind of were stalwarts through. Some of them, including Megan, did 2 terms, so kind of came through the whole entire sort of global pandemic moment. So particular thanks to these folks who have done amazing work on the Governing Council, and we're so thankful for the work that they've done for us then. We also have a number of continuing members of the Governing Council who are continuing to do amazing work. They are all listed up there for you to see here. Continue to do amazing work here on the Governing Council. And then we also have an amazing group of incoming new Governing Council members. Jeremy Gillett, who's our new member at large for finance. Kristen Leahy, who's coming in as our VP for research and publication. Courtney Mueller, who's coming in as our secretary. Bess Rowan, who's coming in as VP of membership and marketing. And Deron Williams, who is coming in as our VP of conference for 2026. Also, in addition to this, and sort of speaking into our next area, we also have Detra Payne, who I saw is on this call here today, who is going to be joining our nominations committee, which leads us to the next round of things, which is just as we exit a cycle of elections, we enter into a new cycle of elections. So there's an amazing opportunity coming up, sort of getting started currently, for opportunities to engage in leadership within the organization. So we're going to be putting out calls soon for your suggestions. If you have suggestions of people that you think would be great to serve on the Governing Council, or if you yourself would be interested in that, please feel free to reach out to me. As I said, we're going to be putting together some calls to put out specifically to gain some ideas and thoughts from you. But if you have people already that you're interested in, particularly from your individual focus groups or people that you've engaged with at ATHE or yourselves, please don't hesitate to reach out to me about that. Just to give you sort of a heads up about some of the positions that we're going to be running elections for this year, that includes a new president elect, as well as a VP of awards and a VP of conference, as well as multiple other board positions. So those are all open. And if you have questions in general about what it means to serve on the board, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of the members of the Governing Council or myself. And we're happy to sort of talk to you about those possibilities. I look forward to working alongside Detra, and yeah, it's going to be fun. So hopefully you will join us and participate in this exciting new chapter, right? As Amy pointed out with the new changes to the bylaws, this is a really exciting moment for sort of engaging in ATHE in a sort of new and exciting way. So please engage. That is my message as the immediate past president. Engage with ATHE. I'm going to now hand things over to our amazing current president-elect, Martine, for some thoughts.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to keep it short because I know we want to have time for questions. And also, I'm a big fan of meetings ending on time, in that hashtag Dean Life, So long story short, I am super excited that the time is ticking and it's going to be close to the moment when our transition happens between Carlos Alexis and myself. And just so to put a few things on your radar, one, this is something that is a personal practice of mine that I like to do whenever I'm taking on a new position of leadership, is to start a listening tour about 6 months out or so from when I begin. So just be prepared for the fact that there will be some communications going out probably around January, February. Just trying to get a sense of like where we are now. And we all know things are changing in these streets that we call higher ed at a pretty high clip. So just even information that we have now could be outdated by the time January rolls around. So I just want to make sure I'm staying current on what it is that people are wanting, hoping, needing, wishing, and wanting for. So just be prepared for that coming up. Also, one of my major goals, one, because I want to set Carlos Alexis up for success, but also because Martine likes to set her own self up for success. We have been working very hard on thinking about our fiscal solvency going forward. And so one of the things that I'm working very closely with Charlotte, I'm working very closely with a few other folks on the board, and especially Amy, Carlos Alexis on, is really thinking about how do we expand our financial and fiscal base. And so right now we have a couple of things in the works, especially in terms of thinking through opening up our portfolio for sponsorships, all those other things. So just know some of those things will be coming down the river, mostly because I want, you know, obviously for lots of different reasons, wants to see us do better than just survive. I want us to thrive and to start dreaming again. And I want to set Carlos Alexis up for that. And I want to set myself up for that. So just know that's a thing that's coming around. And also, I'm mostly just really excited to think about this transitional time and really thinking about how I can support Carlos Alexis in the last little bits of his time as president, but also thinking about what I can do for you all. So just know I'm here. I'm listening. My email is a hot trash dumpster fire, but it's always a hot trash dumpster fire, and I get through it. So if you email, I'll get back to you. So do that. All right.
If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us via email. So then we will be able to surely follow up with you. I want to thank you all for your time. Those of you that are here in person, well, in presence, and then in presence of each other, and those that might, you know, watch this later. We are here as a collective of voices trying to work for all of us, and let's not lose track of that. I think let's continue to center that as, you know, the role of the artist, the role of the artist educator, and the role of educators are so much needed, you know, as we head to November and beyond. And also, I wouldn't be me if I didn't say to you all, celebrate Latinx heritage. Obviously, support Latinx businesses, an important sector of our communities, and you know, and by extension, celebrate the presence of each other. So